So, I'm willing to go on the record with all this at this point and
Because it
say
wasn't an act.
that the food manufacturers are gouging us. Basically, grocery prices are not elevated because of some economic excuse anymore, other than perhaps maybe the fact is that the price of transporting things around for with the high gas prices, and that's it. That's the only thing that's really left for them to justify these prices. The supply chains aren't seized up anymore. There aren't those nightmares that are making it difficult for them to create supply and everything. The wheels of the economy are back in motion. Everything's flowing. And, despite the few disruptions created by a few warehouse Luigi's here and there, the fact of the matter is that the wheels of capitalism are turning again, and all the problems that supposedly, used to justify food prices no longer do. There's no reason why they are this high anymore and grocery prices are as high as they are, other than the fact that the people that manufacture the food, and keep in mind, if you do something and you take direct action, please do not attack a grocery store. That doesn't hit the supply chain where it would need to be hit. Find the factories that they're making the food at. That's where they need to be hit if you do take some direct action in all of this and everything. And I'm at the point where I feel very strongly myself, like if somebody did use Second Amendment solutions to get them to lower prices, it would be fully justified by the fact that, they jacked prices up in the midst of the pandemic. They used the pandemic to excuse it. The pandemic's over and the supply chain disruptions are over. And now all that's left is that, they got away with it. We were paying those grocery prices and everything, and we keep on paying them, and we keep on paying them, and we keep on paying them. And so they think, that we're okay with all of this. That's their price signal. That's the only thing they're paying attention to. They don't realize that we're getting, every time I have to go to the grocery store and pay, like, and there's no deal for soda for like 99 cents, like, for instance, on a 2-liter bottle, I'm getting more and more progressively angrier. Like, I may be paying it, but I'm not happy to do it. And that discontent and everything makes me feel like if somebody burned their warehouse down and everything, then I wouldn't care. I would think that they fully had it coming and everything. And I think that we've reached the point in which the only way to make the capitalist class and the plutocrats in this society do the right thing is to Luigi Maggione them. Because our politicians are feckless, and the fact is that the corporates have lobbied the shit out of the politicians, so they it's become a we the people versus the donor class that always wants them to do the thing that stabs the people that actually do the voting in the back. They want to fuck us over. The donors want more for themselves and less for everybody else, and that's their influence over the Democratic Party, and everything. And the Democrats try to act like there's any way that it can be even theoretically possible to represent both groups. No, everything you do for the donors, you do against the voters. If you're in there, if you do what the donors want, you're acting against the economic interest of the voters. So fuck the donors. Throw them out of the party. You can't represent both groups. It's mutually exclusive. You have to pick a side and a lane as a Democratic representative, and if you don't, then you're basically siding with the fucking, the ruling class and the plutocrats. So people feel like the sphere of political representation has come to a close fully because they realize just how bought and paid for our politicians are. Their campaigns are financed almost entirely by donations from rich people. They spend a huge amount of time in those government offices dialing for dollars to get donations so that they can run back to Congress and run for power. And a politician has decayed in this country into little more than an overglorified telemarketer. It's horrible what's become of the state and everything, and it is so incredibly bought and corrupt at its core. And our society has turned into this. And why they clutch their pearls about like Luigi Mangione and everything, everybody's suffering. There's enormous suffering, in this country, and people are at their breaking point. And I think that we're finding out very quickly that the guy that attacked that one, warehouse right there, he doesn't live in conditions that are really all that much better than living in a jail cell. He's not scared to go to jail because it's not really that much of a material downgrade in his circumstances to be in prison, to attack one of those warehouses and burn them down. So you've got a population that is basically numbed to the possibility of going to jail as well, because for a lot of them, it's not that much worse than what they're already living in, you know, and everything. It's not really a massive downgrade over their current circumstances. And so I think the only way that we're going to get grocery prices down is not, voting for a politician who pledges that he's going to do it. Obviously not, because, Trump did that and everything. But Trump was going to say whatever it took to, get the American people to vote for them. He was going to empathize with their pain. But when he got to power, he wasn't going to do anything that, he said he was going to do and everything. And we can expect this. There's going to be pathological liars that run for office all over the place. I mean, who wouldn't? You were basically manipulating people and everything for power. I mean, power is addictive, and it's also an aphrodisiac. So, of course, if you're attracted to women, seizing some of it for yourself will definitely boost your seductive virility and everything. And, the thing about all of it, at the end of the day, though, is that, with all this crap going on and everything, I mean, yeah, grocery prices could be a little bit elevated over like the 2017 state on the fact that there's a war in Iran and gas prices are high, but not by as much as they've been hiking them and everything, because the supply chains haven't seized up. They're not seized up anymore. We're way outside of the scope of the 2019, COVID-19 crisis and everything. We're heading into a summer and everything. And, meanwhile, what happened, though, was that essentially the food manufacturers, decided that they love these elevated prices that we've been paying. They love this. They're very happy and everything about all of it. And so they're not going to lower them, just because people happen to want them to do it. And, best wishes and everything for all of it. They may be begging them, please, please. But of course, they're not going to listen to that. They're not going to do that. Why would they? Just because the people want them to do it. So that brings us to the only solution the system presents us with, you're going to have to warehouse, Luigi, some of the food manufacturers and their companies. You just have to recruit somebody that's willing to, spend 20 years in prison and everything to get it done, because it's going to take brutality. You're going to have to intimidate them into doing the right thing with Second Amendment solutions. That's the only way that I can see grocery prices coming back down. So there you go. There's a solution. Burn a few of their warehouses to the ground.